Thanks very much, Count Corlin. I think it's been really useful to have this series of debates about the possibility of unification and its implications for all parts of the island across the discussions and the debate on the Sinn Féin Green Paper last week and the debate we're having now. I think these dialogues are important as they allow us to discuss the real opportunities that unification can create. They allow us to also be honest about the challenges that will emerge from unification, and I think be realistic about the very significant political distance that still has to be travelled before this becomes an immediate political question. And as a party that organises on an all-island basis, the Green Party is acutely aware of the economic and the social challenges faced by the population of Northern Ireland. And these challenges are magnified by the continued failure of the current political institutions in Northern Ireland to operate for the best interests of the people rather than achieving best political advantage for the parties. I think we have to be conscious of the very major capital investment that will be needed in the context of the United Ireland to improve infrastructure across Northern Ireland, because that region has lagged behind in infrastructure, in development, and we have to recognise a part of that was because a significant portion of capital investment in Northern Ireland was purely on security infrastructure and not on the long-term infrastructure needs of the population. So that approach to capital investment has to be supercharged. A number of deputies, and particularly on the government side, have mentioned the Shared Island Unit and the Shared Island Fund. Absolutely, that's been important. Some boutique projects have been part funded by the state, and that's certainly something I welcome. But I think we have to recognise that those are just initial forays. They are not the scale that is really needed. That scale remains huge. I think just one area where that's highlighted is the All Ireland Rail Review, which was published about 2 years ago, and that shows the scale of investment needed in just one area. But it does also demonstrate the benefits that could emerge on an all-island basis if its range of recommendations were to be implemented. I welcome the recent publication of the Renewable Energy Generation Bill by the Economy Minister in the Executive. If that's enacted, if it's implemented, it will allow more households in Northern Ireland to enjoy the benefit of cheaper renewable energy and also help the region move towards achieving its emission reduction targets. And the question of infrastructural investment is also very much needed in the context of housing. 32,000 households currently experiencing homelessness in Northern Ireland, and that housing crisis has been exacerbated by the failures of the Executive to reach social housing targets and by too regular cuts in its housing budget. Just as much as we have a large question in terms of capital investment, current investment will be needed, and significant increase in current investment will be needed to deal with the many endemic social challenges being faced in a united Ireland. Rates of poverty across Northern Ireland are significantly higher than our own, and that has resulting impacts in terms of life expectancy and in terms of impacts on physical and mental health. We know Northern Ireland hasn't kept pace with the level of investment in education and skills that we've witnessed in the Republic, and this has led to a significant divergence in skills. It's left Northern Ireland in a position now where, in terms of productivity, it's kind of similar to where it was back as far as 1998. And a number of deputies have mentioned the point already. Considering that high proportion of public service employment across Northern Ireland, the question of the liability for those pensions of former Northern Ireland civil servants is significant. These will have been men and women who served their working lives within the British civil service system, but following unification would be drawing their pension in a united Ireland. And the question of the funding of that will, I think, be extremely significant in terms of those talks following a yes vote on both sides of the island. Finally, as a Green, I obviously see our island as a common biosphere. and with the challenges to our environment, our biodiversity, and our need to achieve climate reduction targets very much shared. And I think of the work my colleagues in Green Party Northern Ireland are doing to highlight the devastating pollution of Lough Neagh, our island's largest lake, with algal blooms causing lasting damage to the biodiversity of that huge lake. And we know something similar is happening here in Ladies Island Lake in Wexford, and I know some steps are finally been taken there. I know myself, my colleague Malcolm Noonan and others have raised that, and that's something I welcome. But I think this is just one example of those shared environmental, shared climate challenges across our island, and somewhere where initially cooperation, but subsequently all-Ireland action can have real benefits. So, Ceann Comhairle, I've touched on a very small number of the fiscal challenges, the fiscal questions that unification raises. And I think it is as valuable to discuss these issues as it is to discuss the constitutional questions, because that question of unity goes beyond votes, it goes beyond parties, it goes beyond institutions. And the answer from a united Ireland has to be fundamentally about raising living standards, raising opportunities, equal opportunities for everybody across the island, and doing that while protecting and enhancing the natural environment for everyone living in our island. Thank you, Ceann Comhairle.
Thank you, Deputy. And now I call Deputy James Gagan, please.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. I welcome this opportunity to debate such a significant issue, but I think what is helpful about this is that it is being framed in a